Majority Leader Taylor, then Councilman Don Cobbs.
Thank you,
Majority
Mr.
Leader?
President. Over the past few weeks, after every violent incident that occurred in our city where injury or loss of life resulted, we all ran to respond, preparing our quotes and issuing our individual statements, each one long on lament and outrage, but short on solutions beyond the usual calls for change left over from the last tragic incident. By now, we know there is no single solution that will magically prevent these acts of senseless violence from taking place on our streets. The day after 5 people were shot in my ward in the parking lot of the old Stop and Shop Plaza, one that had become a gathering place for unruly late-night activity, I sought out to find the owner of that property and turned out to be former Mayor Joe Paolino. I reached out to him and asked him, what can we do to secure that property to keep the illegal ATVs, dirt bikes, cars playing loud music, you name it, out of there? I also at that time reached out to Chief Clements of the Providence Police and Assistant Fire Chief Bates from Providence Fire, as well as the principal of Alvarez. And we all formed a meeting at 10 o'clock the next morning at the Stop and Shop parking lot. Mayor Paolino sent 5 people. Police Chief Clements had the district lieutenant and police officer respond. Assistant Fire Chief Bates had the 2 districts chiefs respond. And together we developed a plan. The property owner agreed to add more cameras, install gates to limit access to the property. At this time, I would like to thank former Mayor Paolino, as he could have easily said, this is not his problem. But to his credit, he understood the urgency and wanted to be part of the solution, and willingly agreed to get it secured. I will state now, and I have stated in the past, that Mayor Lorza and Commissioner Paré need to untie Chief Clements' hands and let him run his police department. More importantly, before we call for outside help, we must allow Chief Clements and his leadership team the ability to do the job we've entrusted them to do. Tonight, I am calling for Commissioner Paré's immediate resignation as he has failed the city of Providence. He has allowed sound public safety policy to be replaced by his own politically motivated agenda, failing the city of Providence as well as the men and women under his command. If we all remember, he failed our state back in 2003 with a smoke shop raid, and now he continues daily to fail the city of Providence. Let's place a true fire chief as the head of the fire department and let Police Chief Hugh Clements run his department to get our city back in shape. As we've all heard tonight, and I will reiterate, I have the utmost confidence that Chief Clements can accomplish this task as the men and women of his department trust him. Last year, we had the unfortunate incident with Jamon Galcals in my ward, and for a week straight, the dirt bikes and ATVs were racing up and down Elmwood Avenue late at night to early morning hours. But at the border of Park Avenue and Cranston Street, Elmwood Avenue, Park Avenue and Elmwood Avenue, not too far away, was the Cranston Police Department, the police chief, and the mayor of Cranston. And they were sending a message that you're not coming into our city. Last summer, when peaceful demonstrations gave way to riots throughout downtown, which caused destruction of several businesses that were already struggling because of the COVID pandemic. We were not prepared yet again, and the quote from Commissioner Paré at that time was, we were a bit flat-footed. When you have 300, 400 people and they are going to storm the mall or any facility, you need to be ready with more than a couple dozen. He didn't see this coming. This went on from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. the next morning, leaving mass destruction throughout the city of Providence. Things have gotten worse under the direction of Commissioner Paré with ATVs and dirt bikes, pulling out drivers of cars and beating them, terrorizing the city when they are out there. The quote from the commissioner most recently for this incident is, if you come here and think you are going to get away with driving recklessly, eventually we will apprehend you. Commissioner, they've been doing this for 2 years now, and they continue to do it on a daily basis. With all the ATVs and the dirt bikes running amok, the shootings, the stabbings, the armed robberies, the carjackings we hear about daily, as we've heard tonight, the residents of Providence are scared. My constituents are scared. But the difference is they reside in this city. They are not as lucky as you, Commissioner, who work weekdays in the city and go home to the city of Cranston, nights, weekends, and holidays. They have to be here round the clock, and they are afraid. Speaking of Cranston and several other cities, as we've all heard, they will not allow what is going on in their communities. And they have proved it numerous times. When they said they were going to riot Garden City, the mayor at that time and police chief, even the National Guard protected it. Why do we deserve any less? The men and women of the Providence Police Department voted no confidence in you, Commissioner Paré, and I sit here to echo their sentiment tonight and ask my colleagues to do the same. As I brought up several times, you were never vetted through the current city council, which is yet another violation, this current city council, which is yet another violation of the city charter. So just to end quickly, I know I'm on the finance committee and the current president was the finance chair and Councilwoman Ryan, the finance chairwoman now. We have all said for the last 3 years, instead of doing a 50-person school, do a 20-person school, each year. And then that way we can catch up. If you take a list of, say, 200 people, you could do 10 schools of 20. It's not going to cost more money. Plus, as you know, and I've said for several times, you're the acting fire chief of the city of Providence, and you're not qualified, but that's $1.2 million we've spent over 7 years, and we could hire 24 policemen today with that money. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, let the record reflect that Councilman LaFortune is present also.
So noted.